Hey everybody, welcome to Life Worth Living. I am Michael,
I'm Nora,
and welcome to our channel.
and today we are going to sit down and give you, well, we are sitting down, but we're going to give you 12 things that you need to do to prepare for a missions trip.
I think we still only have 11.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's 11, but either way, here's some things that you need to do to prepare for a missions trip. Starting with numero 1.
Number 1, research the culture, the missionary, and the country. That is very important. Find out about, when you're researching the missionary, find out their family, who their family is, like all the names of the kids and the wife, and learn a little bit about them, where they were from before they went to the field. And then obviously the culture and the country, find out a little bit about the history. It's just always nice to go into a country and kind of know the history, especially if there's been ethnic tensions and wars of late.
You want to be able to get the most out of your trip, and one of the ways you can get the most out of your trip is to know about the country before you even get there. Number 2 is, let me look. Oh yes. Number 2 is to be in contact with a missionary and ask them for a budget. Ask them how much it will cost for your trip, because missions trips are expensive, and it's a lot more expensive than just the plane ticket, which is a little bit sad for us because our plane ticket to get here is outrageous.
Bank breaking.
But there's a lot of other expenses that go into it, and you do not want to be a burden on missionaries. They're usually pretty poor. and so there's the transportation while you're there, with to and from different places, all the food budget. If you're going to be doing any kind of tourism, a lot of times that's expensive. And just make sure that you ask ahead of time how much money you need to set aside, and then whatever the missionary tells you, plan for setting aside a few $100s, even more, just in case any other extra expenses come up. And make sure that you have money for any trinkets and memorabilia that you would like to buy as well for that.
Because the number one thing you don't want to happen on a missions trip is to be a burden.
Or to run out of money.
Or to run out of money.
And food.
And running out of money, you are a burden. So,
yes.
This is a big one, and I think for us, we had to have some requirements before we came here for our first survey trip. Yes, we did.
No, there weren't requirements, there were recommendations.
Oh, yes, there were recommendations. But in some countries, I know especially in some countries in Africa, there are requirements for a certain amount of vaccinations.
Or certain types. And they'll check sometimes at the airport. Sometimes they won't even let you on the plane out of the country, depending on what country you're going to. So just make sure World Health Organization has all that information by country.
You can select a country, and then it'll pop up the list of vaccinations you need.
Yeah, so make sure you check that before. And sometimes it has to be a couple sets of vaccinations, so make sure you check that well in advance of.
Like 3 or 4 months. Maybe just be better and do 6. Yeah.
Here's another one. This is not necessarily something that you absolutely have to do, but if you want to be a special blessing to the missionary that you are going to be taking the trip to, ask them ahead of time if there's anything that you can bring for them, anything that they can't find, anything that they would like from the U.S. Even sometimes it may be something that they need themselves, like medications or school books for their kids or different things like that they can have shipped to you and you can bring over for them. If you are asking them if there's anything that they want, make sure you specify the payment arrangement, because it is a little bit awkward when someone asks, is there anything that we can bring for you, and you don't know if they're offering to pay for it, if it's something that you need to pay back, because that depends on what you're going to and how the answer is going to be. So make sure you just specify. You can say, hey, is there anything we can grab for you? You can pay us back when we get there, or something, and that will specify, okay, we don't plan on paying for it. And missionaries do not expect you to bring them any kind of treats, but that is a blessing.
Yeah, awkward who's going to pay situations. It's very awkward.
Everyone deals with them, not just missionaries.
Yeah. Okay, so this is number 5. Learn some phrases of the language of the country that you're going to. this is probably for myself, this has probably been one of the coolest things that I've done. And I've done both. I've gone to a country where I have not learned any language, any phrases. Then I went to a country where I did. And I can tell you my experience with the people and interaction with the people was a whole lot better by just knowing just a little bit. Yeah, you're going to have those awkward times where you say like one greeting and then they just go off in their language. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. That'll happen. But when you say something in their language, it's amazing to see their eyes light up because they know you are trying to interact with them, in the way they understand.
And it builds an immediate connection, which is something that you definitely want on a missions trip.
Plus, it shows the missionary that you care.
That is also true. This is an important one as well. Ask the missionary ahead of time any kind of guidelines or anything that you need to know ahead of time that they wish you to follow while you're on the trip. So whether it's dress guidelines or cultural things that you need to be aware of, you do not want to cause an offense to the people in the country that you're going to. That's only going to put up a barrier. So if there's anything cultural that you need to know ahead of time as far as, the specific country that you're going to, ask the missionary, what kind of guidelines do you have for me? What do you expect from me? What is the plan? What's the schedule going to be like? So there's no any expectations or anything that causes problems on the trip.
Like, I mean, we're a Pacific country, and I know for our country, as you're reading through like tourist magazines and things, they say very clearly, do not wear anything.
They say don't wear swimwear on the streets or something. I think
don't wear.
All the tourist magazines do.
Yeah, and so they just say don't wear like swimwear except in designated tourist areas because it can be very offensive here. So, number 2, and
this is not number 2.
Sorry. You
want to do a number again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We should have numbered these.
Yep.
7.
Okay, number 7. Check the visa requirements, not only for the country that is your final destination where you will be doing your missions trip, but also any stopover countries that you are going to. We almost did a very big boo-boo on our survey trip to the Solomon Islands.
We almost didn't make the survey trip.
We were seconds. We were seconds away.
We were about not getting our baggage checked.
We were seconds away from not getting our baggage checked, and
frantically filling out visa applications on our smartphone.
And it was because we had not filled out the electronic transport, the transit application for Australia. And they almost didn't check our baggage and allow us on the plane because of that.
Moral of the story, check all of the countries, the visas, and everything. Make sure you have all of the logistics. Number 8 is to inform the missionary of any diet restrictions you have. If you have any allergies at all or any restrictions in your diet, make sure that you inform the missionary that you're going to well in advance so that they can prepare adequately for that. And if you have any, want to go on a whim of a diet, probably before a missions trip is not the time to do it. You want to be as flexible as you can with food because every country is different and what you can find there is different. And diet restrictions can be very difficult overseas, and especially in remote countries. And so if it's something that is a necessity for you, by all means, make sure you let the missionary know ahead of time so that they can prepare.
Let's say if you get through the holiday season and you go into January and I'm going to take a missionary trip and I'm going to go on a diet. It's a bad idea. It's not going to work out for you too well on the mission field. Another good idea is evacuation insurance while you're there.
Or medical insurance.
Medical insurance.
You can get short-term plans.
Yeah.
For that. And medical care overseas can be extremely expensive. So if anything were to happen to you and you were to have to go to the hospital or some kind of an emergency, it can be extremely expensive and you will have to be paying for it out of pocket because your insurance carrier in the U.S. would not cover it.
Right. So if you do not have like a universal coverage, you need to make sure that you can get a short-term universal coverage plan. I think some actual insurance agencies have a short-term plan.
An option to
just do a short-term universal.
Probably, I would assume so. Number 10, make sure that all of your business in the U.S. is set. And this includes your phone service. You can put your phone service on hold for however long your trip is, so you're not paying for it. Any kind of other subscriptions, make sure your bank is aware of where you're going, and if you're going to be using your debit or credit cards, because otherwise you do not want to deal with them blocking your card when you're in the middle of nowhere.
Probably the cheapest option with your phone is to not even worry about trying to use your phone in the other country, even if your phone service offers an international plan, because so many countries now have a SIM card with a short-term plan that offers very good gigabyte service and data that you can still reach the U.S.
Well, and with Wi-Fi, then you can WhatsApp, Facebook. There's so many different iMessage. There's so many different options for getting a hold of people. Is there any other thing I'm forgetting as far as logistics you need to tie up? If you have children and you're leaving children behind, a will is a very smart idea. Just you'd want to
make things as easy
as possible in the worst case scenario. Yeah. Make sure everything is settled in the U.S. so that when you go on the trip, you don't have to be worried about all these other these things that you're having to tie up or take care of because you did not take care of them before the U.S. And we'll probably go and make another video in more detail on that later.
And then the last thing and the most important thing is pray. A missions trip is an exciting thing. I was on a missions trip to another field besides the Solomon Islands before I was called to the mission field. Nora was on a mission field. We were engaged.
Dating.
No, we were dating at that point. But both the missions trips that we were on impacted us greatly for our worldview and the need the world has for Jesus. And so it's very, very important that you pray heavily about the trip you're getting ready to make.
And prepare yourself spiritually, because it is a spiritual warfare. And when you're going to visit missionaries, and especially if it's in a country that's very oppressed, it's going to be, it can be very dark. So make sure that you prepare yourself spiritually and strong on that end. Pray for the missionary, pray for yourself, pray that you will be a blessing to the missionary, pray that you will learn, the Lord will teach you something and grow you, and that you'll be able to be a blessing to the people in the country that you're visiting too.
Yeah. Well, we hope you enjoyed these recommendations before you take a mission trip. We know not a lot of people are traveling right now.
Hardly none.
But hey, I mean, it's a good time to start preparing. We've already had a few people reach out to us, and they're interested in, once everything calms down, coming out here. Yep. And
hopefully there will be very soon. It's not going to be forever that the flights are down, so they will be opened up soon, hopefully.
Lord willing.
We're praying that end. And then you can come visit us.
All right, guys, you have a wonderful day. God bless.